Hey, this is Chris Olkowski, and can you talk about 4 steps to help with relieving and um, just giving more peace when it comes to your marriage and how to rid yourself of anxiety, stress, and just have a better marriage overall. And these 4 steps, I'll start with step number one is marriage is an outward sign of the bond created emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Now, why that's important is especially in our society today, is that I think we don't realize, especially when we're younger, going into this, is that this is not just a piece of paper. This is not just two people making a decision that they, care about each other and they're gonna love one another, and that's all it is. It's just them two making this decision, because God had a plan that when two people to get together physically and bond together physically, okay, and actually love each other doing it. It's not this not a that's just not just a sexual thing, but they actually are choosing to be one with one another and they love each other, because that involves the emotions a lot of times, even if it's a small amount. It involves the physical, and then if it involves the physical, emotional, and mental too, because you're making a decision mentally, that it also involves the spiritual. Okay, so all these things are causing a connection and a bond. Okay, that's very important to understand, because if that is true, which it is, because God says that they'll people two will become one flesh, and you create this bond, this meshing of two people together that cannot be separated without damage. Okay, so physically, what happens is, of course, you get you have sex, and you get involved physically, and it causes a type of tie that you have a desire then for your spouse. It's a very strong desire, especially the first, it's supposed to be your first time. Both people are supposed to be virgins. And when you're first, you know, have your first encounter of physically with somebody, even if it's not, going full blown, if it's just something very, even kissing a lot can cause a physical bond, because you're stirring up feelings and emotions and bonding in your brain that God has put there for us specifically, so that we um, we bond with this person. Okay, He wants that to happen so that it's not easily broken. That's why what man when God puts together, man should not separate. So once this bonding starts happening, it was never meant to be separated. Okay, especially physically, because you're starting to tie physically, and you have this strong desire for this other person now. And I don't think people realize how strong that is, and that's why we have such problems with all kinds of sex before marriage, and just all these strong desires people have. People say, "Well, teenagers, they just don't have any control." Nobody has control. If you get heavily involved physically, even if it's kissing for a long periods of time, can cause this bonding. That's what the problem is. And so once you start that, it creates this bond that you have the desire that's much stronger than anything else. And it's supposed to lead to marriage, is what's supposed to lead to, because once you start that tie, it's supposed to be stronger and stronger and stronger. This bond is created so that you have this, like I said, strong desire physically. And also, it's supposed to tie you emotionally, because along with this, you have these emotions for this person when you see them and when you are around them, and it's tying you emotionally with this person, and then also mentally, because you start desiring them to love you and care for you and for each other, You desire to know what each other's thinking. I mean, it's all these all are tied together, and all these bonds are starting to be created, and that's what it's supposed to be. Okay, it's supposed to be like that. Okay, and then spiritually, of course, because God created spiritually for it to happen. It does create a spiritual bond too. So when this breaks, it causes problems. That's why divorce is so bad, and that's why even when things are not going well in the marriage, why this is such a it's so detrimental. Okay. Now, um, step two is God is desiring to strengthen the marriage while our flesh and Satan is working against it. Okay, so that's why in a lot of cases where you have all this strong bonding going on, all of a sudden there's this problem that's created is because all of a sudden you're feeling trapped or you're feeling uncomfortable. I think a lot of times too is you get hurt. Marriage and bonding was meant to be in a presence of full love and care and like in the Garden of Eden, that you're not going to hurt one another and that you're fully an expression of love and care. Well, now we have this sinful side of us, of flesh, and we have Satan too, that comes at us and wants to pull us apart, wants us to reject that which is of God. Okay, so we want to do our own thing. We want to choose our own thing. We want to do what we believe is good or evil. We want to make our own decisions, and it just goes on and on and on. We're self-seeking, everything against love, because love is patient, love is kind. Well, if you're not full of love, which is flesh and seed is not, then you don't want to love the other person. You don't want to put them first, ahead of you. You don't love isn't patient, love isn't kind. You're not kind. You don't want to be kind. It's self-seeking because I mean love isn't self-seeking. So this you are more towards me yourself. I mean everything that is not love. That's what the flesh in us is Satan wants. So it's everything against marriage, and that's what you have to fight against. Now step two is realizing that God is trying to help you become more loving, and Satan, your flesh, is trying to come against it and help you not to love the other person. And that's why it's important to realize that because of the fact that it brings you understanding of where stuff is coming from. Because marriage is you bonding and God helping you try to do that, where Satan and your flesh is trying to pull you apart. Okay, that's basics. Okay, why that? And so when you get these feelings, which is the third step, when you get some feelings and stuff going on, then you can start understanding. Okay, why is this happening? Well, this the first two steps is part of the reason. Then on the third step, you ask the Lord to reveal to you what feelings and attitudes He wants to change each day. Okay, starts with day one. You want to start realizing that the feelings are going to come up, especially when you're feeling hurt, you're feeling pain, frustration, anxiety, emotion, whatever kind of negative emotion that it is. You want to recognize that and talk to God about it first. Say, God, I don't know what's going on. Start praying. Seek Him. Ask Him for help in that because He probably wants to reveal something. A lot of times, and I mean every time, if you're getting emotions or something, He's trying to tell you something and He's trying to help you. He wants to help you each day, and that's what I'm trying to get across here, and that's what God's trying to get across to us, and especially in marriage, because He uses marriage because of the fact that it's your closest person to you that He can speak through. So if you're strong Christians, this is going to be a lot easier to do. Um, if you're young Christians, it's going to be a little bit tougher, but it's very doable, especially if you're open to both to be teachable. Now the problem lies is when one person isn't going towards God and one is, because it's going to be become the most challenging. So, but the person who's trying to be a strong Christian still can do this. You're going to have a lot more feelings. It's going to be a lot more challenging, but God is still trying to speak to you in the marriage. Okay, He's trying to direct you as best he can through all the things, and he's helping you. Because back here, God is designed to strengthen the marriage as best he can. Okay, even if the other person is being drawn away. Okay. So each day, how am I supposed to change? Why this is so good and why this is important is because it's going to draw the strong person, whoever it is, closer to the Lord. No matter if you have the other person's Christian or going away from God. Okay, it's going to draw you closer and closer to the Lord, and it's going to strengthen your relationship with God. That's the most important thing, anyways. No matter what kind of marriage you're having, and that's what we desire, and that's what we can rejoice in that. You really can. I mean, sometimes it's hard to rejoice in problems and trials and suffering and pain. But we can when we realize it's drawing us to the Lord. And that's what this is all about is going to the Lord in our feelings and our struggles and in the marriage, especially each day. You know, every day, every moment if you can. But especially each day and saying, God, show me how I can come to you better in this and what do you want to heal me of, Lord? And he will. He'll constantly be healing you and teaching you and strengthening you in your relationship with him. And that's going to help the marriage. That's going to help you first, and it's going to help the marriage. And it can even help that other person. Okay. Now, in some cases, that doesn't work out, but that's not your goal. The goal is strengthen the Lord, and that's the main goal there. Okay. Focus on that. Lastly, let God change your heart toward your spouse and to trust Him more, God more, through your hurt and pain. Okay. So have Him change your heart. Okay. First, have Him reveal to you what's going on, and then change your heart and purify and heal your heart. Okay, so that's the last two steps. So we'll go over it again here. Is marriage is an outward sign of a bond that's created emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Okay, that bond is there. No matter, I don't care which situation you're in, it's there. Now, it might not be that very strong. I mean, if you had past relationships sexually or even emotionally or whatever, that bond, if you had past bonding going on and you've broken it, now that bond isn't as strong. It's weak and it's frail because of it having the bond is been broken, before. Now it's warped and if the other person's got problems too, it's going to be doubly as hard. Okay, that's why divorce and then remarriage with somebody else can be so hard and difficult because of that. That's why the Bible says that, be married and be divorced and then remarried to somebody else because then you got that going on. That's the whole point of that, okay? And so, not that God can't do that. God can definitely heal a broken heart and a broken bond person and then get married again. But it's much more challenging, okay? And so, and me and my wife, we are a situation like that, and it can be challenging, but God constantly is drawing us to Him because that's the whole point of all this is to draw close to the Lord. So He is creating a bond and a strong bond between me and my wife, even though we've been broken in the past, and He's creating such a great thing. This is not even just persons that are divorced. If you had past relationships, like I said, that didn't end in that didn't go in, that wasn't in marriage, but you've just been hurt emotionally, you've been bonded just because you've been together physically and emotionally bonded to somebody without marriage, and then you untie with that person, you're still broken. It doesn't matter. You're still broken. It might be different, but it's still not the perfect vessel if you're, totally free from any kind of bonding in the past. Okay. So, like I said, the first one is outward, but the outward sign is showing the inward bonding that you had. God's trying to strengthen it while your flesh and Satan is trying to pull it apart and break it. Okay. Third step, ask the Lord to reveal you to what feelings and attitudes you're supposed to change for each day. So ask Him for those feelings to be changed, or to reveal to Him, well, God, what feelings do you want me to change today? What feelings do you want me to deal with today? And why it's so important, because that way, if it could be the same feelings, I'm still dealing with this, Lord. What's going on? And God will constantly trying to reveal things to you about this certain subject. Because sometimes things take longer than just one day, or sometimes it's weeks and months. But constantly you're seeking the Lord on it. and getting peace on it. Okay, and it might be something different, and God might go back and forth on some things. But the main thing is asking each day so that He's constantly renewing you and changing and transforming you. And then you can look back at that and say, I'm seeking the Lord. That's the main thing here. I'm strengthening myself with the Lord because I'm doing it each day and I'm crying out to Him. That's what's most important. And then you can look at that and say, I'm doing this and I'm really asking God to help me. And if you're not getting revelation, you're just, praying, oh God, change me. And then you're not getting anything, then you probably need to seek Him more. Because it says, ask and you receive, seek and you shall not, or seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened to you. If you've been seeking God for weeks and months and you're getting nothing, you probably need to be crying out to the Lord more or asking for help or reading your Bible or something. Especially see if you can get some help because something is blocking you. Something is not connected, and I'm not sure what it is. And me and Kristen are available through, you can use a comment in our YouTube video here or on Facebook. And we're available to try to work through to find out what is causing you not to get revelation from God and hearing from God. Because every certain Christian, I'm starting to realize, should be hearing from God in some way or another, okay? And so that should be happening. If it's not happening, then you probably need some help, or well, you probably need somebody to help you because I don't think there's a lot of people that know what that means, or even, I mean, I've talked to people that they don't they talk I'm crazy when I say, well, hearing from God, like, so how do you do that, and then I sometimes people try to hear from God or don't know what I'm talking about, and then I start talking and explaining things, and I could do that, I guess I do that, and then but it gives more clarity, and that's so important to have clarity in that because of the fact that then you know what is flesh and what is spirit, and that's what is the main key because Scripture talks about that. We have to know what is the spirit and what is of the flesh, and that's why we need to know how to do that so that we can be strengthened in our relationship with God and not be pulled away from God by Satan or our flesh. And then so the third, like I said, is God to reveal those feelings, and then God to heal those feelings, releasing them to God, and then trusting Him in your marriage, and because He knows everything that's going on. He knows the hurt, pain, frustrations, and He knows how to fix it, and He knows how to heal it. He knows how to move forward and build that marriage. He knows how to build a relationship with you no matter what's going on. If that marriage is struggling, He still can strengthen you. He can still build you, and that's what's most important, anyways. I remember a counselor said it to me once, and they said, "Chris, what's the most important thing in your marriage?" And I said, "Well, that I get close, close to my wife that we bond together." He said, "No, the most important thing is your relationship with God, and then to love your wife." I'm like, but if I'm just loving her, that's not necessarily going to build a marriage. It's like, that's not the most important. That's what I'm saying. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is your relation with God. Then God can use that to love your wife, and that can draw her to you. Draw him. Actually, hopefully, it'll draw the other person to your spouse to Christ. But if that's not going to happen, they're not going to be able to draw to you in a loving way, and the marriage might end up not working out. But that's not your job. Your job is to love your spouse. I mean, seek God and bond with Him, and then love your spouse. That's your job. It's not the results. And sometimes that's really hard. And again, me and Kristen can help you in that because it can be really challenging in those kind of situations. But when you have two people doing that, it's possible. It's just going through these 4 steps, and that'll really grow your relationship and give you peace because you're not struggling against your flesh and Satan. You're allowing God to heal you and direct you and strengthen your walk with Him and each other. Okay, God bless.